If you hear that, black is beautiful. Santa Claus. Black is beautiful. It's a textile. Lift your head like me. You got to wear it for with dignity. How it burns out. Black is beautiful. I let us sing it along. Black is beautiful. Say I'm black and proud. It's my time that we get rid of that old slave mentality. La 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 la. La la If you hear that, black is beautiful. Santa Claus. Black is beautiful. It's a textile. Lift your head like me. You got to wear it for with dignity. How it burns out. Black is beautiful. I let us sing it along. Black is beautiful. Say I'm black and proud. It's my time that we get rid of that old slave mentality. La la la
And I was dancing because, as far as he's concerned, if Africans can agree to dance on the stage in the same document we got nothing in terms of reparation, he has a right to dance. We have been reduced to being handpicked. You come, Calvin, you come with us, you're come. You're good enough to come and sing and dance here and just get happy because you get a moment on the stage and maybe like black people. Ali didn't say one word that night that a special fund, a special committee is going to meet at parity, for example, and we're going to have a conversation to say that as of next year, we shall begin to pay specifically the descendants of Africans. He didn't even say that. What we do is we dance on the stage, we go home and say, well, they like that people because I thought they dance with us. I made an announcement for all you do this. If you dance with the crocodiles, the music will stop at some point. If you dance with the shark, at some point the song will stop. We cannot afford as a people to play around with our heritage, to play around with our rights. We have to understand clearly, and I'm here to speak this passion as I can, that we as a people in this country must identify our enemies. You must know who they are. And you must understand that there's a way to treat with them. I will never be friends with those who oppress my people. I have an issue with any African who calls on a European Caucasian or one of the European Caucasian descent, like Sarah mentioned those. Please come and rescue us from the people. No! My fathers were too short for me to say you went not to this. They still and they should still be fighting us, let's say. Like tonight this will be called a racist group. To talk down to me.
You see, blackness is a phenomenon. And some of us are phenotypically black. We got black skin. But some of us are ideologically black, even though we don't have black skin. And I want to say tonight that GHK is blacker than Mark Philly. GHK is is blacker than 180. And Mark Phillips' office called us, Buxtonians who stopped trade, on the afternoon of our activity last week in Atlanta, and sought to instruct us that Mr. Phillips is the Prime Minister and acting President, and he's coming to Buxton, and he will be speaking last. Well, I wanted a place in Buxton called Buxton Station. The Bostonians don't report Buxton Station. You buy. Well, I contain myself. I said, we have our program, we have our main speaker, and we've been doing this for 54 years. And no government has ever imposed itself on us, and this government will not impose itself on us. Mr. Phillips will not impose itself. And I said that if Mr. Phillips showed up, he would be welcomed, and I got 15 minutes to talk. I'm going to give him 5 minutes to make some remarks. So I know I was taking a big chance, because the Bostonians were going to. But Mr. Phillips smelled the rat, and they called me 10 minutes after to say the Prime Minister will no longer be coming to us. And so, as I invite G.H.K. Lal, I want to say any day of the week, any hour of the day, I'd rather have G.H.K. Lal come to Buxton than Mark Phillips. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother David. I feel like I belong here. My privilege to be here with you, my fellow citizens, in the village of Diana. We are all Guyanese citizens. Thank you for making me feel at home and feeling well. Centering racial equality in an oil-rich Diana. A few years ago, a question was put to me, and it went like this: what is the most important issue in this country? And immediately I said, our racial problem, our racial division, our racial inequity. So no, the island is the biggest thing. And I said, just as quickly, we could get all the island in the world, and we could have the best oil deal of all, and it will be nothing. It will matter for the North if we can't begin to address the inequalities in this society. My sisters and brothers, my fellow villagers in this nation, we are not short of money. Unlike other times, we are not short of money. Bad contract, low loyalty, We've got enough money so that every single Guyanese, particularly the African Guyanese who are being left out and who have been left behind and who's lagging behind, has a participation, has a right, a birthright to that equality. We are not begging. Notice I said we. It is our birthright, this oil-rich Guyana. You have heard the history from our brother, the apostle. Tough act to follow. You've heard what is happening to Ipanachi, where a man I'm meeting for the second time tonight, who knew my wife would be far too well, he has been demonized and criminalized for standing up and for representing.
Saw the whole world what happened in the country. We know this was the local government election. I thought you would bring it to the center. Bring it to the center, you got to take the country. You get outside? I thought you were ready to watch it. I said we must, it is important that we understand that in order for all of us to live, we must be able to live and love and dwell and respect. Brother Lyle said, I wish you had more persons like me who could have. Because it's only Brother Lyle. When you read the newspaper, it's only Brother Lyle. And then Brother Lyle and people share victimization for the truth, just like Apostle London. So it's not only happening with Apostle London, but you know what? We gotta make up our mind. We gotta make up our mind what's happening to all of us. It can't be Apostle alone. It can't be another alone. It can't be a Bruce alone. All of us must come together and put an end to
And in the context of the indentureship, and in the context of what happened after, the people started off at different points. And by no stretch of imagination can we say that the African people started at the same point that others started. You know, we forget our own story. We forget sometimes our own story of sacrifice. We forget our own story of success. These villages that were bought by our ancestors was done by sweat and tears and industry. Sister Morgan mentioned that our people got away from plantations, even during the period of apprenticeship, and went into the field and with their hands, the intellect and wisdom from gold came back and bought plantations. So you are not in a position of a people who are mendicants, who have to put out their hand each and every step of the way for 20,000. They want you to be that mental state. Let me come to any moment, right? But you're collecting because you're subservient. You're collecting it as a citizen, as a mere negligible, insignificant part payment on your true entitlement. So what we're speaking about tonight is accessing, obtaining, and holding on to your true entitlement. So the 20,000 is a small part payment. It is a certain one way entitlement. So, our constitution and constitutions around the world especially constitutions that emerge from a system of oppression, recognize that equality must be a substantive part of equality. Not just equality, not just equality. And you want to see inequality? The government decides. We in Buxton have been known and perhaps continue to be known as a place, a space, and a people who are frank and who are contrary. Tonight, for the first time, a young man who also has descendants in Buxton is gracing us for the first time. Some will say contrary, some will say fire, some will say resistance, but all will say, and no nonsense. And please give Apostle. But as a people, we also need equity for the purpose of recovery, repairs, and equalization. And I dare say, the world owes that to us because that inequality, that artificial inequality, was imposed. It's not natural. It's not God-made. It's man-made and imposed, and has taken away from us, has taken away from us that status that we were born with, and that gave us the right to be equal. It's taking away from us that equality.
And a very good evening to you, and welcome to Politics 101. Welcome to our Friday edition, our Black is Beautiful edition of Politics 101. Oh yes, Buxton was the place to be last night. It was happening there. As the young people say, Buxton was lit last night. Oh yes, Buxton was lit last night. The annual UC Kwayana Emancipation Symposium, it was happening there last night, and we were bringing to you excerpts of the presentations last night, and I want to thank all the participants. We had a full house last night. We had to get more seats, and we had to order more chairs to come into the building and so on. We want to thank all those. One gentleman traveled all the way from New Amsterdam to come. There were people there from Georgetown, from the East Coast villages, of course, from Buxton. It was quite a night. It was electric. It was electric. It was electric. What a night. What a night in Buxton. And people in other villages are asking for that that panel to go to their villages. The people of New Amsterdam wanted to go there. What a night. Good evening to all of you. And those of you who couldn't be there in person, certainly followed us virtually. And yes, it was a statement made last night from Buxton, as we always do. We try to make our big statements, our bold statements in Buxton, not because Buxton is special. All villages are special. All peoples are special. But Buxton has always been, from the colonial times to the present, what we call free space, free territory, liberated territory. There are things that they do to Buxton that they do to all villages, but there are some things that they can't do to Buxton. And I want to thank the people of Buxton for always hosting us, for always allowing us to use their village to make our big and bold statements. Thank you. It was quite a moment when GHK Lal took to the podium. Oh, what a night. You know, they tell us that we socialize Black people to be violent and to be all kinds of things. We are racist and all of that. But here was an Indian man going to Buxton during emancipation at a time when the ethnic groups are so far apart, and he was treated with dignity. And I want to say thanks to Buxtonians, thanks to Black people, because I say over and over again on this program, we are not socializing our people to be hooligans. We are not socializing our people to fit the stereotype that Black people are beautiful as any other ethnic group. We are dignified as any other ethnic group. We got manners like other ethnic group. We sensible like other ethnic groups. And that is the kind of African that we are trying to socialize, to bring consciousness to, a consciousness of self-respect, a consciousness of respect for others. And that is why those who come on to these programs and try to spew their nonsense, at some point they will leave in frustration if you leave them alone. Don't match them. Don't match their lawlessness. And oh my, last night in Buxton was brimful of respect and dignity that we showed to our Indian Guyanese brother, to show that we Black people don't believe that we are superior and that we recognize those who are working not necessarily on our side, but who are working for equality. Because all we ask for is for equal treatment, equal dignity, equal access in Guyana. And so the title last night was centering racial equality. What a night. Good evening to all of you. I see my friend, Sister Nima Flew Best from Mocha on tonight. I haven't seen her in a little while. She's busy and so forth. But welcome, sister. Welcome to all of you. You're joining us. Good evening, Orma. Good evening. So true, Hector. So true, Hector. So welcome to all of you. Welcome to all of you. Those of you who are joining us from outside of Guyana. I see my brother, Thomas Robertson, from out there in Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome to our discussion tonight. And I continue to be proud of our people, continue to be proud of all peoples, but especially proud of African Guyanese who are constantly under attack, who are constantly labeled with all kinds of negative things. And every speaker, each speaker, all the speakers last night zeroed in on this question of equality. I would like to say thank you again. Thank you again. Thank you. Thank you, Buxton. Thank you, Buxtonians. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you to those who traveled to Buxton. And we made an important statement. We're going to open the phones. Let's see. We're going to open the phones at 7:35. So in another 10 minutes or so, we're going to open the phone so that you can call in tonight and give your thoughts on any issue that we are dealing with, but especially those of you who were there last night, those of you who witnessed, followed it online. Of course, that issue, what happened in Buxton last night, would be on your minds, but you can also call in and let's talk about any issue that is affecting our community, affecting our country, and we are going to have that discussion. So I'll open the phones. The number is on the screen, and we'll open the phones in about 10 minutes. Brother Roysdale Ford was there. You saw that. Brother Vincent Alexander, Sister Simona Brooms, Brother Nigel London, GHK Lal. They were all there. Brother Nigel Hughes is down with the flu, terrible flu, and just couldn't make it there last night. But what a wonderful night it was. I want to thank the people from the Reparations Committee who came from Georgetown. I want to thank all of you. So proud that we are able to speak our minds, speak to our people. And there were people who were trying to tell me, as I said in that clip, Dr. Hines, why are you taking an Indian man to Buxton and emancipation? And as I made the point, some of us are phenotypically black. That is, that we have black skin. But some of us are not intellectually black. We are not ideologically black. And some of us who are not phenotypically black, we are ideologically black. And I made the point that GHK Lal is blacker than Mark Phillips, blacker than Warren Edgell, blacker than you, Todd and Waldron and all of those others, blacker than those who allow themselves to be used and abused because of their race and simply can't see it. And so the definition of blackness is not just phenotypically black. The definition of blackness is, are you thinking black? Are you thinking black? Are you at one with black people and their sufferings and black people and their demands? And so therefore, we broaden the definition of blackness from phenotype to include thought. Brother Frantz Fanon wrote that book, Black Skins, White Masks, that they're black people who have on masks. So when you look at them, you see not a black face, you see another face. Black skins, white masks. We are at a critical time in our history. And we're trying to say to our African people, lift your consciousness. Lift your consciousness. Come out of the shadows. Do not be afraid to say you're black. It's not a crime. It's not a crime. Say it. When you say you're black, it doesn't mean that you are not Guyanese. When you say you're black, it doesn't mean you're racist. All it means is that you are affirming one of your identities. And that in a country of different ethnic groups, racial identity matters. It is not your only identity, but it is probably the most defining identity in a place like Guyana. Your racial identity determines how quickly you get a house lot. It depends on whether you get a house lot or not. It depends on how much of the cash grants you get. It determines when you get what and where and how you get it. It determines whether your house is demolished or not demolished. It determines whether you're shut down on the streets by the police. Your racial identity becomes the most important aspect of your identity, not because you say it is, but because the society, and the society includes the state, the government, the different ethnic groups, the institutions, the system. They define which identity is paramount. Oh Lord, for God, we did not create race. The phenomenon of race was created on the plantation. Race was created as a justification for the enslavement of Africans. Why are you enslaving them and you're not enslaving Native Americans or white people? Why? Why? And the answer was that black people are inferior. Black people do not have souls. That's the definition of race. Race as a phenomenon did not exist before the mid-1700s. Difference exists, but people are different based on status. Were you of the nobility? Were you a serf? Were you of the nobility, as I said? The feudal system. Were you a master? Were you a serf? Race did not exist. Race was created when plantation slavery was created. Then the question of inferiority and superiority based on skin color. Therefore, the question was, what slavery did was to give meaning to skin color. Skin color did not have that meaning of inferiority and superiority. Skin color did not have that meaning before chattel slavery. And so African people did not create race. Race was created to make African people inferior. And then anything that's created brings with it its ideology, its thought process. Hence the ideology of racism, or what we call racial supremacy. The ideology, racism is the ideology of race. So you create the categorization, and then you create the intellectualism behind the categorization. Racism or racial superiority. That is what? You use your power in the society to actualize the categorization, the hierarchical. You create the hierarchy, and then you write books to justify and explain that hierarchy. You use your power in government to create institutions to justify that hierarchy based on skin color. That is what we call racism. African people were and continue to be the victims of racism. What has left us is formal. Formal. The law doesn't say today in South Africa, in the United States of America, in England, in Guyana, in Jamaica, the law doesn't say that blacks are inferior. The law doesn't say that. That is what has changed. The laws have changed. But the practice has continued. The institutions that were created by the law of superiority and inferiority continue. Because that ideology of racism infected the institutions, and the institutions outlived the system. And as Brother Roysdale Ford says last night, until we change the laws, change our constitution. And he said something about that constitution last night. that there's some things inherent in that constitution, that part of the function of the state is to promote equality. Our constitution in Guyana has that written. The American Constitution says all men are created equal. It's in the preamble. But it was not until the 14th Amendment of the Constitution that the American Constitution actually said that people were equal. What we call the Equal Protection Clause in the American Constitution in the 1860s. America had been existing since the 1780s. It took them almost 100 years to put in their constitution that all men are created equal and have equal protection before the law. The preamble said all are created equal. But in practice, some were more equal than some. And the 14th Amendment said, all of us are equal before the law. And then we know what happened. The states nullified the federal law, and they created their own Jim Crow laws. That said that while the federal constitution says that all are equal before the law, the states are saying, because blacks and whites are socially unequal, they cannot get equal treatment. Federal law was pushed aside for 100 years. It took the Voting Rights Act of 65 and the Civil Rights Act of 64 to finally bring black people constitutionally equal under the law. And we know that a lot of those progresses, a lot of the progress that was made during the civil rights era are now being turned back by the Supreme Court in the United States. In Guyana, we also have our equal protection. But as Brother Roysdale says, the Constitution says that the state must promote equality. But the government, the PPP government, is not activating that aspect of our Constitution. The state of Guyana is constitutionally bound to promote equality. Some of them said, well, we are not all born equal, and we may not be born equal. But the state says that we are equal. That's where our struggle is. What it means is that those who are less equal than others, the state is constitutionally bound to correct that. In other words, the state is constitutionally bound to implement affirmative actions. And note I say affirmative actions, because some people think affirmative action is just a simple policy. It's not just a simple policy. The state is bound to do that by the Constitution. That is why Roysdale's intervention last night was so important. So important. And so when we Africans call for our fair share, we are not asking, we are not begging. The state has the burden to correct the inequities in the society that were created by slavery and colonialism. And I'm continuing to say to our political leaders, especially the ones in the PNC and in the opposition, you all got to stop being afraid of speaking about race. The Constitution recognizes racial differences. And at some point, African leaders have to be at one to say and to develop a culture in Guyana where you must be able to speak about inequality and not be punished for it. And I said to my brothers and sisters in the leadership of the PNC, this almost instinctive thing that you all cannot speak about racial inequality because you feel Indian people will punish you and not vote for you. You all got to reconcile that nonsense. You all got to be able to talk about racial inequality. And at the same time, speak about political governance. It can be one or the other. And I think the younger members of the PNC have to wrap their minds around this issue. It is the big disconnect between the party and its membership. Because the membership is concerned about their inequality. And they're articulating it every day. Some of them cuss about it. Some of them cry about it. Some of them shout about it. And their leadership sidestep it. That, people ask me every day, Dr. Hines, we're in a bad shape. Do you think we can make it? Well, we're going to make it when the leadership and the fellowship connect. And it's a sacrifice. I am making that sacrifice. Yes, I'm being called racist. But a racist is not going to carry somebody from the other ethnic group into his own community. We got to connect with our people. And right now, the vast majority of African people are coming to understand that they are being judged by their race. And the leaders have to connect with that. And I think once the leaders begin to connect with that, we're going to see some big changes in the fortunes of the opposition. You cannot be talking north and your supporters talking south. You can't be at cross purposes with what your supporters are saying. The PPP is not at variance with what their supporters are saying. They may not be treating their supporters as right as they should, the poor supporters. But they're setting up the stage, they're playing a game. They're coming and make black people beg for a penny so that Indians will say, why are you giving black people so much? And then they go back and say to the Indians, we have heard your cries, look 5 cents. That's the game they're playing with us. And sometimes we fall for that game. Yes, all of us should get 10 cents. All of us should have $1. All of us, of all races, should have $1. But you push a penny in the face of some people so that you can give 10 cents to other people and you can give $1 to the elites. That is the narrative we have to carry. Not this narrative that Indian people are suffering too. We know that all poor people are suffering. But you cannot insult black people or Amerindian people who are suffering in reality and in perception. You can't go and tell them what other people are suffering. There's a time time and place for everything. There's a time for a campaign speech, and there is a time for a speech of truth. And I find that some of my fellow leaders can't make that differentiation. They want to give a campaign speech every time they go before a mic. You all think I don't know that I have to give campaign speeches? I will give campaign speeches at campaigns when the time comes to that. But I can't watch my people bleed, watch my people cry, watch my people being hammered, and go and give them a campaign speech. That is the lesson. That is the lesson. 592-633-1924 is the number to call. 633-1924 is the number to call. Let me hear what you have to say on these matters. What you have to say. Serious times. Serious times. And we got to get some things right. We got to get some things right. I'm not into the politics of division. I see what the politics of division is doing to the morale of our people. We invite Norton to Buxton last week. They say that he's being challenged by another faction led by Rosedale. We invite Rosedale forward too. It's not one or the other. It's both. We want to be an example of how we fight. We don't fight by fighting ourselves. Differences are always going to be. It's not the first time you got factions in the PNC. There have always been factions in the PNC, even during Burnham days. So the factions are not the problem. It's the behavior of the factions. They're factions among Black people. Some Black people like Rodney, some like Burnham, some like Quayana, we've always had that in the Black community. We've never been a monolith politically. As the people of West Bobis, there's a Quayana people and Burnham people. And that when the AP and you came together, they were free of having to make that choice. I grew up in a village. In which we learned to live side by side as PNC people and WPA people. To this day, I remember in 2011, we were going out to campaign. And, you know, people from around the East Coast, we would gather at the Buxton gas station, and Granger and Rupnarine would come, and we would go into the villages. And somebody from the PNC were asking, where are the WPA people and where are the PNC people? Because they wanted to do something. And the Buxtonians give them the right answer we wanted. They said, we are both WPA and PNC. Get that in your heads. Our people have always found ways for the different tendencies in the community, not just to coexist in the community, but to coexist in us, in our heads. The Black people who like Norton, but they also like Simona. And some of them may like David Hines. In case you all didn't really know it, that's what happened. That's what is happening in our community. No one party has a corner on the thinking of our people. And it is for us, whom they recognize as their leaders, to decide to work together. You all think they don't have problems in the PPP? You all know it. But when it comes to the question of power, they put their differences aside and they find common ground. We have got to find common ground in our community, in our organizations. At some point, we have to decide, because it's electoral politics, we've got to decide on who's presidential candidate and all of that thing. You know, the rules said that that's what we have to do, you know. But all of us should be called leaders. All of us should be called leaders. And yes, brother is saying here, the WPA have more real ideas of the African Guyanese struggles. You know? That may be true. And I tell you why it's true, that no major WPA leader from Rodney to Kwayana, come right down to Kedaki and Hines and so on, Ogunse and Daye, we have never avoided race. And because you don't avoid something, you develop ideas about it. So it's not that we are brighter. It's because we have never denied race. And so if you don't deny it, you are more open to thinking about it. The cash transfer. The cash transfer that Professor Thomas authored on behalf of the WPA is about race. But here, what is it about? It's about all races being treated equally, because each household will get the same amount of money. It is about race, but not about racial superiority and inferiority. It's about racial equality and equity. So Brother Carlos may be right. Brother Henry Jeffrey made such an important point the other night. Such an important point he made the other night, Brother Jeffrey. People talk about rigged elections. The first rigged elections in Guyana was in 1961, when the court found that the PPP rigged in the Houston constituency. The first accusation about rigging on the PNC was 68. Yet the PNC has the tag of the rigger, and the PPP doesn't have that tag. And Jeffrey gave us an insight. Because the Jagans and the PPP, according to Jeffrey, they were prepared to use the infractions of the PNC, to use it to socialize East Indians, to hate and demonize Burnham and the PNC. But the infractions of the PPP, Burnham and the PNC did not use them to socialize Black people, to hate and demonize Jagan and the PPP. Such a profound point made by Dr. Jeffrey. What it means is that to some extent, the PNC stopped short of dealing with Black people as Black people. And that thing has come back to haunt us now. Because at the time when black people are at their lowest, in terms of being treated in a certain way by the state, the party to which they give most of their votes cannot cry with them. And I'm not saying this will continue. I think slowly the PNC leaders are coming around to that you cry with your people today so that you don't have to cry with them tomorrow. You cry with them in 2023 so that at the election in 2025, you don't have to cry. And I'm saying to you all, get your leaders in line. It is not the only problem we have, but I think it's one of the biggest problems. The dissonance between the followers and the leaders. I'm not putting down the PNC. I am not condemning the PNC. I am just saying, yes, you all have a little problem them that you all got to fix. You listen to the younger PNC leaders, they run from race like a curry. Those old-time people, you know what is a curry. They run quick. Run like a curry. You're running away from your own people. We cry for our people. We cry with our people. But we are not socializing our people to be anti-Indian. That is why we took GHK Lal. And we are prepared to take other Indians who understand the struggle, who are for fairness and justice. You'll understand why I got mad at Gita and Ganesh and them the other day. You cannot be in a black-dominated party and you are hammering black people when the state is hammering us. You want to hammer Ogunse, and you don't want to hammer the state that put shackle on his feet. What are you talking about? That's why I got vexed with Gita and Ganesh and them. You cannot be in a black-dominated party and not think through the issue of blackness and brownness. Look, black people and race are profoundly different from Indian people and race. Indian people did not undergo enslavement. And so I understand that Indian people come at racism from a different point than African people. African people come at racism as the original and continuing victims of it. Indian people come at it from being victims of it in certain circumstances. And so, yes, there is a difference, but you must understand that difference. And when a black man or black woman stands up and confront racism, don't run and condemn them about what is correct and what is not correct. That is why I got on Gita's case and Ganesh and Brother Ubraj and the others. And I hope they understand that it was nothing personal against them. I met Sister Gita and we worked that out. And they were doing that because they didn't have a profound understanding of race. I can say that. I don't want to put down the brothers and sisters. But I'm saying, as an Indian, you have to theoretically wrap your mind around race. We black people have to do so too. But other than theory, in a practical way, we experience race in a way that an Indian wouldn't experience it. And all we're asking for, even black leaders, black middle class, black well-to-do people, in many regards, they experience racism a little bit differently because of their status. And if they recognize, but I always remember the story given by Brother Colin Powell, who was the head of the U.S. Army, went to meet a friend at D.C. airport, and he wasn't allowed to go beyond a certain point. The young lady didn't recognize him. And when he told her he was the chief of staff, she said she got to go and talk to somebody. That is the way the black person, regardless of status, sometimes experience racism. I stood for an hour in the library. I went there to put books on reserve for my students at a certain university I worked at. And I stood there for an hour, and the little student working was dealing with other people, and she wasn't dealing with me. And when I asked her, she said, we deal with professors first. She didn't think I was a professor. And she had every reason not to think so, because I was the only black professor at that university. That is how we experience race as black people. And so our Indian brothers and sisters have to show an understanding of our issue. You see, you all tell me I must open the phones. And I open the phones, and you're not taking me on. And Rhonda gonna abuse me next week and said, Dr. Hines, you must open the phones. But I understand sometimes when the gal gets sweet, you don't want to interrupt it with calls. So we've got work to do, all of us. In particularly the black leaders, we have to understand the moment. The moment is a moment. It's a process, but it's a moment in the process. You talk black today. You give solidarity with black people today so that you don't have to do it tomorrow. Because the more equal and the more equitable our society becomes, the less we have to talk about race. And that is why I'm saying to black people, say you're black and beautiful. Say you're black and beautiful. It don't mean that other people are ugly. What it means is that other people believe you are ugly. So you have to affirm your cultural beauty, your civilized beauty. If there's black beauty, an Indian beauty, an Amerindian beauty, Chinese and Portuguese beauty, then Guyana becomes beautiful. All the other ethnic groups are beautiful, and black people are ugly. Guyana cannot be beautiful. We have work to do. We have work to do. And that is why that event at Buxton last night was a very important moment. It's a moment of freedom. Brother Roysdale did not give a PNC speech. He gave a speech that reflected the moment. He didn't give a campaign speech. Sister Simona didn't give a campaign speech, a PNC campaign speech. David Hines didn't give a WPA campaign speech. Brother Vincent didn't give a PNC campaign speech. Pastor London didn't give a party speech. GSK Lal didn't give a party speech. We all spoke about racial inequality. There's a time and a place for everything. We are a diverse people. We are a diverse Guyana. And Black people, we are diverse in terms of our outlooks. But diversity must be turned into an asset. I don't like to put my mouth in PNC story, but it can't be Norton versus Ford versus Amanza versus Ganesh versus Amna versus David. It can't be that. Because that thing weigh down your own people. There are differences in terms of how you see the way forward. That is normal. But we can't turn our differences into a vicious fist fight. I am treading carefully. And I'm only treading there because the story is now out in the open among our supporters, where people are calling me. Dr. Hines, when are you going to call out Norton? When are you going to call out Van West? When are you going to call out Roysdale? Well, and I have to say, I'm not in the PNC. And people argue me and say, you may not be in the PNC, no, but you're part of the opposition. And that is how I know this thing is weighing down with people. It's weighing with people down. We got big work in front of us, but we're going to do it. Because we have to keep our shoulder to the wheel. I think somebody's coming through here. Hello? Hello, good evening. You're on to Politics 101.
Hello?
Yes?
Good evening, Dr. Hines. I'm listening. Am I on to the program?
Yes, you're on.
Yes, I just wanted to say I enjoyed the symposium last night. I find it very informative. It was great. And the only thing I saw missing from it was the question and answer segment. The question and answer segment, because I was boiling with some questions and I did not get to ask them. But that being said, it was a very good program. I just want to, secondly, I just want to say that I want to reiterate this, my call to the African community for 2 weeks of mass protest throughout Guyana, all African villages. Let us pool our resources and, mount a protest for next 2 weeks. Let's pool our resources and come out and show the world our suffering. And I think I tried to discuss it at that event last night, but I didn't get a chance to do it. So thank you very much for listening. And the program, I'm looking at the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, brother. Thank you. Thank you. And yes, we didn't open up for questions and answers last night, deliberately so. First of all, the panel was large, so we were into the 9 o'clock hour by the time we finished. And secondly, we wanted to go out on a high because we didn't want a situation where people would start leaving while the program was still going on. Everybody sat there until the end. Hello, you're on to Politics 101.
program finally. Well, I think you note my absence from the program because it isn't deliberate, but we have a remigrant who is a drummer by profession, one a choreographer.
Yes.
And he's now hosting drumming classes in the village. And as an elder, I was glad when it started. So I would go to give the young people in the area that attitude to attend drumming classes. So I'm on drumming classes twice a week. But today I stayed home specially to catch her show. And then we had a lot of meetings and planning to host emancipation because we had a 5-night session for emancipation this year. And I'm in the called the Emancipation Organization. So I was busy. And today too, I am preparing for my concert on the 20th of this month in my village, then I'm there. And I am sewing and getting up the program together. But I'm glad I'm finally on, and I'm glad that the topic you're doing, because lots of Africans, many have answered tonight. I was going mad because I was talking to somebody who is older than me, but the negativity in the person, it was great. And I had to walk away because when you listen to him and many other Africans, they have adopted this thing like, that we can't ever win an election. They don't see things like that. And when people like me and you and others who are in the constant fight to look for a better Guyana, and when we get Africans who are throwing negativity at us, like we fetching the whole world on our shoulders, like our patches at the end of fetching it, they wouldn't come out and be enlightened. They wouldn't go to programs that telling you of a way forward, but they just sit down to say, oh, this can't happen and that can't happen. And as long as you got people like them, though, who are telling you that this can't happen, even if it happens that time, it has come at an exorbitant price because you're fetching their negativity and you're fetching your positivity. And it's a hard road to take. But I'm glad you have this open program so that I could call in. And the next thing too, what people on these lives got to remember, that everyone is entitled to their own opinions. And when somebody gives an opinion, whether it's oral or it's verbal, people shouldn't jump down and start like heckling the person and thing, because many of these persons who come out on the program and heckle somebody for their comments, they don't put forward no comments, but they will heckle you. But for me, I don't care, because when I finish giving my points, you like turn at Dr. Hines. If you, the host, don't see a problem with the comments that I would give to the show, I don't worry with the other people. But anyway, I'm glad you have the calling, and I will try to be a calling member on the show. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sister Rhonda. Thank you so much. And thank you for what you do all the time, because we need people in the communities to carry the struggle. The struggle must not be just about leaderism. With the leaders at the top, all of us are leaders. All of us. Rhonda is a leader. We are all leaders because we are all in this struggle together. There has to be some sense of democracy, some sense of equality as we confront this struggle. And we are always confronting a struggle because there are always forces who are trying to turn back the clock of history. And so we are always having to struggle. Good evening to Brother Albert Morgan from the quarantine. We missed you in Buxton last night. Good evening to my brother there from Grove. We missed you in Buxton last night, but you all were there last week. So you can't come every week because you have to travel from far. Thank you all so much. And thank God for the technology that we don't have to be there in person. We don't have to be there in person to partake and things. So it's now, all right, we're now past our time. So we're going to close off for tonight, and God willing, we come back tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, we're going to be talking economics and where the economy is going. We're going to have Professor Clive Thomas on, and we're going to be talking about some of the money issues, some of the financial issues, the issues that have to deal with spending and all of those things. So tomorrow night, same time, same place, Professor Thomas is going to be on. We're going to be talking all things economics. See you all then.
If you hear that, black is beautiful.